Okay. So I was like a sophomore in college, right? Like going into the summer of then going into junior year, right? I wanted to find an internship. I was sophomore, like that's as early as you can probably find one. I didn't do it early, so I got fucked up. So I had to like look for other places. I ended up going and applying to this really sketchy place. I didn't know it was that sketchy. I probably should have did a little more research. It looked alluring. It was what I wanted, and it paid decently. I was like, all right, fuck it. So I do the interview. And there's like a bunch of other people in the fucking room, like the other room, and I go into the interview room, and the guy is the actual embodiment of tell me why I hire you, and has a million things on his desk and on the walls telling why he's great and smart and whatever. He loves my answers, and he's like, oh, you want to do part 2? Because he was like, oh, you got to do all the different parts of the business to learn, you know, that's the best way to learn. I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Ends up having this kid come up, and he's like, oh, hey, like, you know, I'll take you over, you know, we can take my car, whatever. He has this old like Mercedes. It's like a 2002 old shitbox Mercedes, but it's like kind of like well taken care of. And we get in and he's like, oh, where's your car? And he points at mine. And I point at mine and I was like, oh, that. And he's like, oh, I can see why you want the job. You probably want to upgrade, right? Fuck, like this dude just like shit on my car. I'm like, dude, my car is like a fucking 04. His is, I know what year his car is. My car's literally newer than yours. Like, I'm like, what the fuck? So we get in the car. First thing I notice is the sticker, right? So when I was in college, you had to have a sticker on your windshield that said like you went to the school, right? It was like a parking pass. It was like to clear, you know, your car so it wasn't like random people parking on campus. He had a Bryant parking pass. It also has your year of graduation. My year of graduation was 2018. It said 2020. That means that I'm going into junior year. That means he's a freshman going in. And I'm like, huh? And excuse you? I was like, what the fuck? Like, this guy's like a year or two younger than me. So by the way, I leaned back a little bit to look over his dashboard. I was trying to see what the mileage was. I couldn't really see, but the car had a lot of mileage. I saw a 1 at the front, and there's no way it had 10,000. So it had over 100,000. Mine had barely 100,000. So I'm like, yeah, my fucking Durango that you fucking shit on has less miles than your fucking Mercedes that probably costs like $9,000 to fix its little shit parts, whatever though. And so I ask him, I'm like, so you go to Bryant? And he's like, yeah, I used to. And I'm like, what? He said he went for a year and then he dropped out. I was like, nah, you didn't drop out. Like, no, you didn't. And I was like, so what made you want to leave? And he was like, oh, I was already working and I was making really good money, so I figured I'd work for a little bit longer. If I need to go back to school, I can, but I'm in a really good spot right now. Okay. You know, whatever, dude. So we're driving, whatever. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, one of two things is happening. I'm either about to fucking get kidnapped or we're going to like some sketchy ass place. I'm not really that scared. I have a knife on me actually at that time. I actually grabbed it from my car before we got in because I was like, oh, let me make sure I lock up first. I'm like 2 times the size of this kid. This kid's like 5'9", like maybe 165. I'm like, dude, I could crush this guy if I wanted to. Plus, because I was still in really good shape from football and stuff. We pull up on a street at a house, right? We pull up to a fucking house. And I'm looking at this house, and I'm looking at him, and he gets out. I'm like, this is awkward. So he gets out. I get out, too. He walks around the front. I was like, you don't expect me to just walk into a random house right now, do you? And he's like caught off guard. He's like, what? I was like, you must think I'm stupid if you think I'm just going to walk into a random house. He goes, well, we're not going inside. I'm like, huh? So then he starts walking up the steps. So I put one foot on the bottom step and I'm like leaning in. I'm like, this has got to be good. How is it? This dude's going to tell me we're not going inside? And he's walking up the steps. And he walks up to the door and he goes. And I go, okay, I probably have about 4 seconds to run. But I'm still in like on the street and there's a lot of people, right? Like it's like pretty public. And I'm like, okay, as long as I don't go up these steps, we're probably chilling. So about a minute and a half goes by. And I'm like, so what's the deal? Like, what are we doing? Like, what is this? And this like 13-year-old girl opens the door and I go, oh my God. And they're like, hi, are your parents here? And she's like, no. I'm like, oh my God, this 13-year-old girl just opened the door and just said there's nobody home. Why? He's like, you know, is there anybody here like watching you? Anybody here? And I'm like looking at this dude like, what are you saying? She's like, no, it's just me and my sister. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, we can come back later. and then like hands her a card and is like, can you tell your parents that we were here? And she was like, okay. And then she shuts the door. And I go, God, I was like, her parents need to tell her not to open the fucking door to random people. Jesus Christ. So he comes down the stairs and I go, all right, what the fuck are we doing, dude? And he's like, huh? And I go, are we debt collecting or is this a door-to-door sales job? And he was like, well, I mean, you know, we're trying to get people to sign up for this thing. I go, so it's door-to-door sales. Why the fuck did you not advertise it as that? And he's like, this dude's stunned. Like, cause like, now I'm like kind of mad. So I'm like, why the fuck would you not say that? Does this mean you'd like to terminate the interview? And he's like stuttering over his words. And I go, you want to try that again? And he's like, do you want to terminate the interview? And he says like a little bit louder. Yeah, no shit, stupid. And he's like, okay, well, you can get in. I'll give you a ride back. I was like, dude, I don't even want to fucking go near your fucking snobby ass, bro. I was like, dude, you made fun of my car. This thing looks like it's going to fall apart too. What the fuck is wrong with you, bruh? I was like, you're younger than I am. You're not even in college. How the fuck are you doing a door-to-door job and drop out? Bro, go back to Bryant, bro. Unless you got kicked out, there's no reason. Like, that school's way too good for you to be doing this. And he just ignores me and he gets in. He was like, last chance. And I had already started to order an Uber. And I was like, I can get an Uber, no problem. And he was like, suit yourself. So he gets in and drives off. So I get back. I get to my truck, or my Durango. I have it parked literally in front of the door. It's backed up towards it, you know what I mean? It's him and another guy that's standing there like smoking. I walk up to it and I look at him and I hear them like talking like very quietly. I'm like, they're 100% talking shit. But what they didn't know was that the tailpipe of my Durango was disconnected from the exhaust like system. It just rusted and fell off. This thing was so loud. They didn't know. They had no clue. So I got into it, put the key two out of three ways, like, you know, like 3/4. And then when I started it, I put my foot on the gas and it just went, it just like, these two dudes jumped a fucking literal mile. Like, I think the dude who was with me might have shat himself because it was so loud. I literally heard one go, Jesus fuck, dude, what the fuck? And they're just like staring at me, like through the back, like can't see me. And I'm dying laughing. Also, did I do this by mistake? How long have I been on that screen? I was so happy with myself because I just drove off after that. On the way out, the strip mall, whatever it's in, is like basically abandoned. And I just yelled out the window. I was like, fuck you, buddy. On the way out, just like flipped him off as we were driving by. And this dude just staring at me. And like he put his hand up like he was gonna like flip me off back. And then he didn't. And I was like, you know what? He was fucking scared. He was fucking scared too.
That feels good.
And I took that as one of the biggest W's ever because these fuckers wasted like an hour of my day plus an hour commute. Oh man, I was so mad. That was my first ever like trying to pursue a like business job because I didn't like know how to do it. Like I'd plowed before, done lawn care stuff, helped out like people's like parents and shit with stuff like all the time. That was like my first like on my own getting a job with like my degree. And I was so mad. I was so mad. Unfortunately, the story doesn't have a happy ending because I ended up applying to Hertz and I actually got a job with Hertz, but they paid so bad. The pay was so bad. I literally told them no. I think they wanted to pay $11 an hour and you had to be in a full suit and tie during the whole day. It was the middle of the summer in Rhode Island. I'm like, yeah, no, that's awful. Basically what the job was you'd have to, as an attendant, you'd have to like obviously like get people's cars to them, but then you'd have to like clean out the cars. You'd have to clean the cars if they come back. It wasn't always your job to clean it, but like their motto was like everyone helps. So basically like if like techs aren't there, which they never were, then you'd have to like do all the stuff yourself. And then also shuttling people to the airport down the street or going to pick people up at the airport down the street, driving them down to the Hertz office so they can pick up their car. And I was like, are you fucking hot? You have to clean the car in a suit? Yes. Yes. They told me that with a straight face. And I was like, no. And I was like, for that pay? No. That's not happening. And they're like, well, we can't go any higher. And I go, okay, well, I'm not coming here. Bye. And I fucking left. Actually, real quick, let me see if I can find a photo of the bottom of my old Durango. This was the underside of my Durango. So when I said this fucker was loud, I was not joking. I was not joking when this thing was loud. This thing was a literal monster. We didn't even know. We actually didn't know. It wasn't disconnected. It just rusted and fell off. I don't know if I actually have it, right? But so the way we actually fixed this, chat, was with two, you know, like the metal zip ties. They're like the zip ties, but like they have like, they're made of metal, and there's like, it has like a bolt on it, you know? I forget what it's called, but they're like clamps, pipe clamps. Yeah, they're like pipe clamps. So we took 2 pipe clamps and a Campbell's soup can. So we cut the Campbell's soup can down the middle, and then clapped it on from the tailpipe to this, and then 2 pipe clamps around the ends of the can, and connected it. And the soup can fixed it. Absolutely. There was also this other time where this guy rear-ended me really, really hard, and nothing. Fucking nothing. Yeah, that poor bastard. Actually kind of felt bad for him, you know? So, you know, but that thing was great. I actually loved this thing too. This thing was awesome. It's kind of why I like my truck now, but I also kind of want another Ford again. I know Fords are fucking kind of also trash. This was an older Ford, and older Fords were a lot better. This is something else. Oh no, the fluid's leaking out. This car was totaled. Their car literally was totaled. I actually had no problems. There was no structural damage. Not even, like, you can actually kind of see on the bumper. There's literally, like, there wasn't even a scratch. It was, like, smudged a little bit, and you could just, like, wipe it, and it went off. So